Hey, what's going on? It's Dalton, and I'm a realtor with the GeoDwell Real Estate Group over at Keller Williams Southlake. And if you've spent any time with me in person or online on my Facebook page or any of my channels, you'll know that I'm fascinated by cars, art, and architecture, both commercial and residential. And for that reason, I've compiled a list of the top 10 major home styles in the United States. Always been fascinated by that, like colonial and Tudor revival and all that kind of stuff, bungalows. I've always been super curious to know exactly what that means. I learned what that was quite a while ago because I felt like I needed to, but I just thought it would be really cool to put together a video that says just that. And oh, by the way, for a 30-year fixed FHA loan, the average mortgage rate today is 6.08%. For a 30-year VA, 6.1%. Just thought I'd throw that out there. We're still below the 40-year average, which was 7.42%. So if you have a stable job or whatnot, you might be in the market, buyer's market. All right, let's get to it. All right, so number one is the colonial and colonial revival. Those were made from the 1600s to the 1700s originally, and then 1880s to 1950s for the revival. And the regions were the Northeast, Mid-Atlantic, and then the South. And then key features: symmetrical facade with a centered front door, so all about symmetry here. Multi-pane double hung windows with shutters, and classical elements like columns, pediments, and dormers. So the picture that I'm going to show you, one thing kind of keep in mind, there's a lot of brick. Looks like typically in these homes, although siding is acceptable, columns, dormers, shutters. This is, what do you think of? I think when you think of homes in the Northeast, like a big home, someone who's done well for themselves, they're gonna live in a nice colonial home. Moving on, let's go to Craftsman. So Craftsman, kind of right around that World War I time, Craftsman / bungalow. 1905 to 1930 is when they were super prevalent. Pacific Northwest, Midwest, California. And I can say when I lived in Seattle, especially the closer you got to Seattle proper, like the city, you would just see tons of Craftsman's bungalows. So they've got the low-pitched gabled roofs. They've got the eaves. Sorry for the hand dish. For the eaves. And then typically the front porch was kind of like maybe a little bit on the smaller side, and always had kind of that tapered column. I think that was more of a design feature than a structural feature, but very distinct look. Colonial homes, I feel like, can kind of look like a mix of different homes. Craftsman homes and bungalows, I feel like they have a very distinct look, and typically they are a little bit on the smaller side. Now, when you think about, like the little starter home, young family, white picket fence, I think it's typically these kind of homes that come to mind. Let me know in the comments if this is what you picture. Let's move on to Victorian style homes. So Victoria style homes include Queen Anne and Gothic revival, and I think there are some other kinds of homes as well. And the time frame when these were super popular, the 1840s to the 1900s, regions Northeast, Midwest, San Francisco, and older U.S. cities. They've got an asymmetrical facade, decorative trim, think like gingerbread house, steeply pitched wolves, and patterned shingles. So when I think of Victorian style homes, I kind of think of like faux castles with the steep roofs and a whole bunch of stuff like poking out every which way, a little bit in my opinion, maybe a little bit overstyled. But if you get one with the right paint job in the right neighborhood, the right backdrop, they can be really, really super beautiful. And also, if you get one, I kind of feel like, leave it be. Don't, or restore it, but don't go overboard and, taking down some of the decorative features, because I feel like that's what makes them distinct. And if you want that kind of home, buy it. It's almost like, a really good classic car. You don't want to change too much about it, because that was from an era when people felt that particular way about designs. Let's move on to mid-century modern. I think just kind of aesthetically and livability wise, and when I think of, when I shut my eyes, what kind of home would I want to live in, I like mid-century modern. Oh, correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is mainly the style that Frank Lloyd Wright did his residential design in 1945 to 1970. That's about his time frame ish. I think he died in 1959. Anyway, the regions are California, the Southwest, and metro suburbs, and then flat or low sloped roof lines, clean horizontal lines. So a lot of that, lots of kind of looking like boxy and stuff. Open floor plans with large glass walls and sliders. That's a huge design. That's when kind of that indoor outdoor kind of look started. And then integration of indoor and outdoor spaces is a huge feature. When you think like some kind of luxury home show, or people have like built their house into the woods and there's ferns and all that kind of stuff and big windows, lots of light, airy, that is kind of what I picture. Now, I would definitely need some curtains. A lot of these designs will have like a completely open facade, and then you get a little bit more privacy built in as you get toward the primary suites and stuff like that. But I don't know, there's just something cool about mid-century modern that I really like. It's very unique. It's been borrowed from, you'll see that when we get into like more contemporary designs, but it's been borrowed from a lot, because I think a lot of it is very extensible and very conducive to like kind of happy human living, if you will. Let's move on to ranch style. I kind of think ranch style is like almost the first iteration of contemporary, but one of the big things is ranch style, I think, is either always or almost always a single story. So ranch was 1940s through 1970s. Nationwide, especially in the West and the South. One story, kind of sprawling layout, but with an attached garage. Otherwise, I think it's a little bit more like a large bungalow or a flat craftsman. Yeah, one plan interiors, sliding glass doors, and simple horizontal lines, often with brick or wood siding. However, I do think that most of the roofs are a medium to low pitched gable. You're not really going to see a lot of flat or extremely low pitched roofs. Tudor revival. These homes, I remember seeing some homes like this in the East Coast when I was growing up. And when you see it, I'm just going to show you Tudor revival. It's got kind of that chocolate box home look. If this was the UK, maybe it would be a thatched roof. But you can see the chocolate box. You can see the white. I forget the kind of siding that is trying to mimic. But that white and brown siding makes me think of, like, I want to say maybe back in the day, the Toll House Cookies guys, the elves or whatever. I feel like they were kind of rocking that look. I like the look. It's not my go-to. It's not what I would typically go for, but I like it. So again, growing up in Ohio, like they had these, say like in Cincinnati. Let's go through the stats real quick. So Tudor revival, 1890s through 1940s. The regions are the Northeast, the Midwest, and upscale suburbs. Steeply pitched roofs, prominent cross gables, decorative half timbering over stucco or brick. That's what I was talking about. The white is going to be kind of like the stucco siding, and then the timbering is going to be that brown, chocolate colored paint. And then tall, narrow, and then leaded glass windows. Of course, with safety regulations, who knows if that's really a thing anymore, but just something to call out. Mediterranean or Spanish Revival. I always think of these as like huge villas. I'm not sure. I'm sure that that is not accurate. But let's just kind of walk through it. 1915 through 1940s, that was kind of the revival. And it continued a lot, through the 80s and 90s even, in warm climates. Think California, Florida, Southwest, like New Mexico, Arizona. I like the look, but it kind of aesthetically needs to go into a warm climate. Otherwise, it just doesn't really seem to look right. Red tile roofs, stucco walls, arched windows or doors. Courtyards, always got to have a nice courtyard. Balconies and wrought iron details, and designed for warm weather living with shaded outdoor spaces. So, when you think Mediterranean, it's not necessarily going to be like completely a stucco home, but those like Spanish tiles and that kind of look, that is kind of what I think about. And you even get into like it said, the arched ways, like the columns that lead into arches, arched windows, arched doors. It's just kind of a calling card of this style of home. I think with these ones, you either love it or you hate it. And if you hate it, chances are you haven't seen it in the right environment, because when you see it in the right environment, it really speaks and it makes sense. Farmhouse and kind of traditional modern you see my face. Don't think that if you have a farmhouse style home that I don't like it, because I do like farmhouse style homes. I think that they're cool. Time frames is going to be 1800s for the traditional, and then kind of 2010s to present for the modern revival, rural areas, and increasingly in suburbs. And we're going to see gabled roofs, vertical siding, large covered front porches, simple functional layout, often interior and modern, open interior in the modern versions. Now, I'm going to show you an example of kind of a modern farmhouse that I do really like. In my opinion, a farmhouse home needs to have a little bit of a sprawling porch. That's kind of the finishing touch. Otherwise, it looks a little bit more colonial to me. But, a nice side gabled roof with some dormers and a nice big porch. A Cape Cod, 1700s for the original, 1930s to 1950s for the revival, and the regions are northeast, especially in New England. I mean, Cape Cod. And characteristics: 1.5 stories with a steep gabled roof, symmetrical facade with dormers and a central chimney, wood shingle siding, and modest ornamentation. Cape Cod, when you're looking at a more simple Cape Cod design house, to me it looks a little bit like a mix between a craftsman and a colonial and ranch style and wooden shingles. That is kind of what I think of with a Cape Cod. You get a big one, and now it's going to kind of look like that old money kind of thing. Cape Cod houses, I do like them. Let's move on to contemporary. I owned a home, wife and I owned a home in the Pacific Northwest that was very much a contemporary or modern style home. I would love if they changed the name of contemporary style home to maybe late century or early century contemporary, kind of like they did with mid-century modern, because there is going to be an era after contemporary homes that is going to need to be defined. And I don't want home style names to get lazy. I want it to be distinct. I want people to know and recognize the difference. Why? I don't know, it doesn't really matter. It's just I think it's cool because I'm fascinated by the different home styles. So contemporary is post 1980s to present, which when you think about it is that's kind of a big window. We're pushing 50 years for this window. So it's, guys, whoever's naming homes, it's kind of time to start thinking about the next style. Anyway, nationwide, especially in new development. Anyway, key characteristics are going to be mixed materials. So metal, glass, wood, concrete, kind of that industrial look that's very popular right now. Asymmetric forms and minimalist lines, and sustainable elements. Think solar, think green roofs with ferns and whatnot growing out of them. I think that's what they mean, or I mean, or whatnot. But I like the look. I do like the look. I think I'm simply excited to see what comes next. So that was the home types. This was a long video. We're going to be pushing about 20 minutes here. If you like what you saw, if you like market updates, and if you like home tours, definitely subscribe to the roof list, because I just like talking about stuff like this. We'll probably talk about some commercial stuff, some more residential stuff, definitely more home tours. I'm repeating myself, so it's time to go. This has been the Roof List. I have been Dalton, and you have been great. Thanks for watching. I'm out.